It's been a little over half a year since I made my last video regarding Foxy the Fox 110. In that video, me and my friend Winter had documented a deplorable freak and the underlying problem with her content, where she would implement little to no effort in that content, and has a history of stealing other people's content without exactly transforming it to make it unique. At the time, she was what you would consider to be just simply a mere content thief, but over the years, her true intentions were starting to shine through. Initially, after that video dropped, she, if anything, made a bad response to my video and just skipped over points that were criticizing her character so she didn't have to look bad. Which I'm not really surprised, to say the least. It's Foxy. Now, it's very uncommon for me to make another video discussing people that I've already made a video on. Mostly it's because I don't like making more than a few videos on the same topic. But the reason why I've decided to make an exception for this is because the recent controversy she's gotten herself into. Now, for the most part, I've just been kind of putting it off because I've been just waiting for more to happen, because with each passing week, even more material for this video seems to manifest, and it's gotten quite hard to ignore. So for today, I'm going to be going solo and trying to conduct a final autopsy report on Foxy. Let's go ahead and cut her open and see what we can find. From the very start to Foxy's rise in notoriety, her videos weren't the main issue. It wasn't just one incident that caused people to lose respect for Foxy, as it's typically the case with many other YouTubers, but rather a steady, agonizing loss in popularity and reputation. During around 2023, Foxy had defended a known pedophile and zoophile named Wilson Perez, and behind the scenes would even say that Wilson did was completely fine and forgivable. When she was criticized on why she defended Wilson, Foxy would either continuously lie about what happened, cry bullying and harassment, or silence people who simply just spoke out and criticized her hypocrisy. And when she was successful in getting these videos taken down, she would brag publicly in her community tab. As time went on, the situation would get a lot worse when she had defended someone named Vinny, a disgusting fuck who had posted the nudes of a child on his community tab, and he tries to essentially do damage control in the situation by sweeping it under the rug. When people eventually caught wind of her defending Vinny's actions, people soon realized that Foxy had never really cared about growing as a person, but was rather more concerned about her image and her reputation. And when the backlash eventually got too big to ignore, she pretends to change so that she can get people off her back. I'll include a link to the video in the description for those who are interested in watching it, since it provides background, context, and a lot of history that goes with the Foxy story from 6 months ago. A lot has happened within the last 6 months, which I will go over in this video, along with some humorous hee-hee-ha-ha moments sprinkled out. Now, I want to make this established and make this as clear as I can. Don't say I did not warn you, but you might get very disturbed with what I'm going to show you next. On April 3rd of this year, Foxy was confronted by two people in a group chat. She was questioned about her controversies that she was involved in, especially the ones where she'd called children hot, defending Wilson Perez, shit like that. When Foxy was confronted on why she defended Wilson, she basically replied that she didn't know why she defended him. She said that two people helped her realize that what she was doing was wrong. One of those people being someone by the name of Wow Wow Lulu, a minor who was really good friends with Foxy at the time. When she got asked about the origin of the screenshot where she defended Wilson in a group chat, she said that it happened back in 2022. This group chat had Wow Wow Lulu, Harsh Dino, and GoobTube6, all of which are minors. She was trying to manipulate minors and having their guards down regarding CP by acting like it was not a big deal. When she was questioned on why she said that in a group chat with minors in it, she lies and then says she wasn't thinking at the time, which I have a fucking hard time believing. If this had an effect on the minors in that group chat, they wouldn't fucking notice that because Foxy manipulated them into believing that shit is okay. Eventually, when she was questioned on why she defended Vinny, she basically said that Vinny didn't mean to share CP, but he was trying to expose the kid that he hated. When she got asked how exactly did Vinny accidentally share CP, she argued that Vinny had forgot to censor it. So Foxy was asked if she saw a child posting their nudes online and she caught wind of the situation, if she would screenshot them to make an exposing video on the kid. And she said yes, she would. This was the one that sent a fucking shockwave to the community. Lots of people during this were shocked. Former friends and fans were going against her during this shit as well. But, you know, I just want to say, I think it's ridiculous that Foxy still tries to downplay what Vinny did by claiming he should have censored it. Do you guys remember about last video when Foxy eventually ended her friendship with Vinny, but she didn't cut ties with him because she thought it was wrong? She cut him off for her own good. She was aware that spending time with Vinny might damage her reputation, particularly in the light of his actions. She only cut off Vinny because she was getting criticized by people for that. If she wasn't criticized for that, she would have continued to stay friends with him and defend what he did. Just keep that in mind. We could have lived in a different reality where Foxy was still friends with this guy if she wasn't getting so much shit for it. When she got questioned about why she would screenshot CP to expose them, she said she would do it to expose the child for being a pervert for them exposing their nudes. And then her former friend criticizes her that what she's doing is evil because she's still saving it, and then tries to play off ignorance so they can seem a little bit more charitable through the shit they're in right now. She did not learn shit from this at all, because in that message, she said she would delete the screenshot, meaning she acknowledged that CP would be in her phone's gallery. When she was confronted about her saving that shit on her phone, she tried lying about it and defending herself by saying, well, deleting it afterwards wouldn't be saving it. What the fuck? Now that I've shown you proof of Foxy saying that she would screenshot CP, it gives a lot of indication of why she defended it. Even worse, she would pretend to be sympathetic by using her disability, and would actively participate in group chats with kids who she could easily manipulate into thinking CP isn't a huge problem. Unfortunately though, it works. Lulu was still in contact with her after the situation broke out. You know, the same kid that Foxy defended CP to. With the serious blow that was dealt to Foxy's reputation, I think at this point is where she was starting to lose it. From this situation, she tried to manipulate her audience who wasn't aware of what was going on so she could try to save her reputation. One of Foxy's loyal friends had created the video where they would essentially try to debunk the evidence against Foxy. In this video, they listed 3 red flags, but these weren't very strong arguments and they didn't really prove Foxy's innocence. Interestingly enough, I told this person what was exactly wrong with their video and how the points weren't really good, and they ended up blocking me entirely from their channel because I was bullying them apparently. Now, if anything, I was willing to believe that Foxy had manipulated this kid into thinking the evidence against her is fake, but this person ended up revealing that they were 29 to 30 years old. And what's even notable, in my opinion, is the fact that this person, who is defending Foxy, didn't have any clue of what CP even was, whilst trying to say that the images against her is fake. Now, one could argue that this 30-year-old person could have been lying about their age, which is what I thought as well. And even if true, why would Foxy want this kid lying about being 30, and who also didn't know what CP was at the time, defending Foxy? If the kid was lying about their age, Foxy could have manipulated them into thinking what she admitted to was not a big deal whatsoever. And it doesn't really help considering that Foxy, after this video was released, Foxy informed them of what CP was and realized the exact problem with their video. If this person hypothetically was a kid lying about their age, Foxy could have given them a blatantly one-sided response and could have manipulated them into thinking what she admitted to wasn't a big deal. And at this point, can you really blame me for thinking that, especially with what she's defended in the past? Especially around minors, and how much she lied about the situation afterwards. And if this person is actually saying the truth that they are 30 years old, why would Foxy want a 30-year-old person to defend her, admitting that she would save CP to expose kids that she doesn't like as a mistake? Neither side makes her look good, and if anything, it just raises more questions of why she has these things happening anyway. Foxy was promoting this video and just asking others to watch it on her community tab as soon as it was available. What's ironic here though is that she had recently posted her My Side of the Story video where she records herself showing that the messages from that group chat are real, basically debunking someone defending her. Interestingly enough, when Foxy gets a bit more harsh criticism directed towards her, she'll attempt to justify what she did so she can get that person to fuck off. It's interesting because when that group chat got leaked by Mr. Blocky, word had quickly spread around Foxy's communities, and when she realized that her defense of it being fake wasn't gonna hold up, she just changes her approach on the situation by playing ignorant so she doesn't get too much shit from this. Foxy was willing to trick people into believing that the evidence against her is fake, but since Mr. Blocky had leaked the entirety of that group chat, she had to change her approach on the situation. Foxy doesn't actually try to explain her side of the story. She doesn't change because she realizes what she does is terrible. She only changes when it's convenient for her, because she knows people aren't buying what she says anymore. So she's willing to change her beliefs as long as people fuck off. And this isn't even the only example of her desperation. Now, as most of you are aware, Foxy has been known to severely filter her comment section by blocking any people who publicly criticize her. She would even ask for others to block people she doesn't like. She attempts to justify this by claiming it's to maintain a drama-free channel, but in reality, it's to make the few kids who stand by her seem like the majority. And unfortunately, because of this, she's able to actually generate her own echo chamber effect that will make kids more likely to believe her in the situation. This actually ties into another disturbing case of when I found a comment on her recent video. This comment basically said, "Oh, you're a fellow map like me. Are you also zoo romantic?" Now, from the way that this comment is structured and the way that the account is made, it looks like as if it was just, a troll account, obviously. And if anything, I was inclined to believe so as well. But when you look further into this account, they have a fucking playlist called Hot Stuff, and the whole playlist is literally animals getting assaulted and raped. Foxy had let this predator comment on her video, opening themselves to more children that could possibly get groomed. Plus, the screenshot was taken a whole day ago, and she responded to it a day ago. Why in the world would she be responding to it instead of deleting it? Now, one could argue that Foxy was simply unaware that they were a map or a zoo. But how could that be possible if she responded to the comment saying that she wasn't one? Why would she respond to something that she isn't one if she had no idea of what it was? Plus, it literally asked her if she likes kids or animals. It's not like she didn't know what zoophiles are, considering the fact that she was criticized for supporting one a long while ago. Not to mention, she also spends her entire day on YouTube, posting to the public every hour until the very moment she announces when she goes to bed. With that tying into the fact that she also makes 5 to 6 reaction videos every day, it would be fair to assume that she would be monitoring her comments and looking at the channels of the people that watch her. So it's not something that would have just slipped. Plus, considering her heavily filtered comment section, that also backs up my point more, but we'll talk about that later. It's fascinating how Foxy will stop at nothing to silence her critics like Mr. Blocky, but is willing to allow an actual predator to comment on her videos, and then actually responding to the fucking thing. She let a predator comment on her videos, potentially endangering more children, so she can keep up this echo chamber she built for herself. That's also why whenever you look at Foxy's community tab, you'll notice Foxy has these obvious troll types defending her, which she thinks is legitimate. And since Foxy is completely desperate for these people to side with her, she will completely agree to whatever's said in that video that is defending her. Contradictory or not, as long as people get off her back. Here's an example. There is this one channel I found called Screwball. This is one of the most, if not prominent, Foxy defenders out there. And is so close with Foxy, he was picked as one of her 3 favorite users of all time. Now, the reason why I mentioned Screwball is because he says that a few of the screenshots against Foxy were either fake or trying to frame her in a way. But we're just gonna focus on the screenshot where Foxy says that CP was forgivable. Screwball had admitted in this screenshot that he knew that it was real. He knew that Foxy said that CP was forgivable. Now, what is so bad about that? Well, unsurprisingly enough, it's the fact that he still continued to defend Foxy after that screenshot was posted. He said that the image was proven to be real, but her detractors were trying to frame her by forcing her to confess, which makes no sense whatsoever, considering that she wasn't even forced. She was just asked about why she supported Wilson, and that was it. The image that you're presented with right now is Foxy completely and willingly defending Wilson under the premise of it's in the past. There was no kinds of pressure that was even implemented ever. And if there was any kind of pressure, the only pressure that you would see from the situation was the aftermath of everyone finding out what Foxy defended. Now, when you look at the comments of that video, you can see that Foxy herself responds to the video saying, "Awesome commentary. No corrections, no criticism, nothing." Which is very strange, especially since that it's very contradictory to what she said earlier. When Foxy had originally responded to the whole Wilson Perez shit, she said that she didn't know she was defending Wilson. Now she's saying that people were trying to force her to confess to something she didn't want to. By saying that this guy's video was good, she's basically saying that she agrees to all of his shit points. Now, one could speculate that she probably didn't even watch the entire video. So, to see if that was true, I decided to go scavenge on her channel for that exact video. And lo and behold, there it was. Foxy's Approval, Season 1, Episode 31. Another approval on Screwball. And that entire video is just her agreeing to every stupid little point that was said about her. To say that she wasn't aware is an understatement. Foxy is desperate enough to where if there is undeniable proof against her, she'll try to manipulate others by twisting her side of the story. Or when it comes down to it, massively filtering her comment section. The reason being is because she's hoping to bank on people feeling sympathetic, or what seems to be a case of a learning disability. But if that really was the case, we wouldn't see her defending Wilson Perez, and after being criticized after that situation, would still defend him by saying that CP was forgivable. If Foxy had truly cared about the safety of children, she wouldn't be defending these people after being criticized. She wouldn't feel the need to expose a kid's nudes online to expose them. And you know, I'd understand if it were to be a case of a learning disability, but she's continued to fuck up consistently and continuously for shit that she's been criticized for years ago. And at that point, when you see Foxy fuck up this much consistently on the endangerment of children, it really makes you think if Foxy has some form of pattern that seems to reoccur. To really cover how manipulative Foxy is, I figured I should make this chapter alongside Desperation, as these two are for the most part intertwined. And if anything, just highlight how bad Foxy is and how bad her lies can get. And her lies can get so bad to a point where kids will end up believing them because they think that she's getting bullied or slandered by her detractors.
I keep on getting cyberbullied and harassed. Like, they don't even care how I'm feeling. They don't even care about my feelings.
Something that she tends to fully utilize as a defense, since a good portion of her detractors anyhow are really bad when it comes down to criticizing her, like Mr. Radke for example, but that's a different story. If anything, I had mostly covered just how desperate she is, but I figured I should explain how manipulative she is so she can get people to defend her. The people that you'll see defending Foxy usually reside within 3 categories. We have kids, apologists, and trolls. Now, let's go ahead and discuss one of the most concerning parts of this chapter, and that is the manipulated kids that she has siding with her. Whenever you look at Foxy's defenders, you'll start to notice that most, if not all of them, are typically kids. Most of these kids are, if not very unaware of how dangerous someone like Foxy is, and because since Foxy is friends with them, they are typically told what they should believe is real and what is not. And shit like that unfortunately works. If you saw the community post where she told her fans that she's got a new channel, you can notice the long string of comments of some of the same people that were defending her a long while ago. But as I was saying before, most of these kids can't exactly detect how someone like Foxy is a dangerous person. An example that you could look at is someone like the Panther Lover. The Panther Lover is someone that has been friends with Foxy long before the group chat leaked, and when it eventually did, the Panther Lover would shut it down by saying it was fake evidence. Eventually, when she had released her My Side of the Story video, where she shows that the screenshots are real, She'll try to play it off as like some form of mistake, saying that what she admitted to was just out of context. And if you've seen the second chapter, you know why that's a ridiculous argument. Foxy will try to lie to the Panther lover about what actually happened, so that she doesn't lose her friendship with him. And it would line up considering her name literally says Foxy the Fox, the TPL fan, which is abbreviated to the Panther lover fan. Now, just simply being a fan of someone's content is fine, but when you take into account that Foxy is 24 and the Panther lover is a teenager, as Foxy said, and she has allegations that she's willing to save CP to expose kids she doesn't like, it's really telling, especially with this response I found.
See, how old is the Panther lover?
Well, I know he's a teenager. Well, I know that all I know is that he's a teenager. But I don't know his age because he doesn't want to share his age.
Foxy, if anything, is trying her best to lie about the said situation to try and keep people like the Panther lover on her side. A kid that, if anything, has no idea how serious and how bad these allegations against Foxy are. And when you have that along with Foxy trying to poison the well about my video, you'll notice a pattern that develops. Although I get simply trying to defend yourself, however, when you're trying to tell your audience not to listen to what I have to say, it's really telling. If anything, what you've seen so far of Foxy is how terrible she is. Because just envision this for a minute, imagine this for just a second. What if someone just doesn't like Foxy? That's fair enough, right? They don't like Foxy, they just don't like what she does, they don't like what she did in the past. That's perfectly fine, you know? She will ask her fans if they want to participate in some form of harassment campaign against a kid that she doesn't like, by making tags like the ALA, which, as Foxy says herself, translates to the Anti-Leah Alliance. But we will talk about this later. That is how dangerous Foxy is. And Foxy's manipulating children by using her disability so she can seem like she's getting bullied when she's not. Now, speaking of bullying, I figured we should move on to the next part of the list. Apologists. These people tend to feel sympathetic towards someone like Foxy for what they did, merely because people have been giving them lots of backlash for said situation against her, and rightfully so. They, if anything, will try to stay away from her community, but will criticize people who are taking her way too seriously. These people will try to argue that the backlash Foxy is receiving is arguably worse than what she's admitted to, downplaying the situation in a form of moral equivalence, saying that the bullying is worse than Foxy's situation. Basically, in short, they think that pedophilia is now on par with simply making fun of someone. An example of this would be someone like Phoenix Knight. Now, Phoenix Knight was someone who formerly was against Foxy. He would make videos addressing Foxy and how terrible she is. These videos would go in depth and talk about why they think Foxy's a bad person, and has made other videos on Foxy's defenders as well. Although during this time though, Phoenix had a change of mind and had went from talking about Foxy's terrible actions to defending her by saying that the whole group chat that she was confronted in was not actual evidence against her, and the evidence from the group chat was completely taken out of context. In this as well, he says that he spoke to Felino Wizard about the whole situation and got the whole story by just speaking with him. Now, this itself would be fine. Speaking to someone who had known what had happened in that group chat would give you more context to what happened in the situation. But it doesn't mean that you should discredit the whole group chat even existing, especially when you take into account that Wizard had cut ties with Foxy after this group chat got out. Out of complete curiosity, I asked Wizard in private messages if Phoenix had ever contacted him regarding of the group chat, in which he had told me that he had never contacted him about the group chat whatsoever. If anything, he had told me that he had mostly made like a general statement about the situation, not exactly like a private message to him whatsoever. Now, when you think of someone getting the whole story, you think they would contact the person privately and ask questions that were related to the situation. But Phoenix never asked any questions about the situation, nor even asked Wizard privately in DMs about it. So what you're basically seeing is someone that's just either really stupid or just flat out ignorant to what's going on. And it would be safe to assume it'd be the latter, considering that Phoenix still tries to deny it as not actual evidence. Now, when you look at Phoenix's videos and community tabs, you can notice that Phoenix tries to involve himself to correct misinformation that is being spread on Foxy, which would be understandable, because initially when the news had even broke out, loads of misinformation was being spread about her. However, when you look further into these community posts, you can notice that Phoenix has some form of bias when it comes to defending Foxy. Just to explain it, there was a community post I found from him a few days ago where he mentions the group chat and why he forgave Foxy for it because of her intentions. Phoenix tried to say that Foxy isn't a pedophile because she didn't word correctly how she wanted to expose minors for showing their private parts. Now here's my question. Why in the fuck does Foxy and Phoenix completely endorse this type of behavior? And what even incentivizes them to even try and expose kids for this shit? Better yet, why were these people residing within the community, which is filled mostly of kids? What I personally think is interesting about Phoenix, to say the least, is that although he's trying to be a whole anti-bully, he'll still defend people that he knows are terrible individuals. And this is shit that he's been criticized for years ago. When back in 2023, he would defend people like Darren Pipster, who were proven to be pedophiles. Now, although he doesn't defend them anymore, the same treatment that he's giving to Foxy here still stands. As for what I've shown you, Phoenix will completely defend those that have sick intentions and is completely fine with it, but only cares about their feelings getting hurt from the backlash. If Phoenix was mostly defending Foxy under the premise of simply getting bullied and didn't know the story, I would understand. But Phoenix has shown full awareness of Foxy's history in that group chat, but just continues to defend her because she's getting called out for that shit. Now, let's go ahead and touch on the last category of people who defend Foxy. Trolls. And trolls defending Foxy really shouldn't come to a surprise, as they are quite common. Especially from last year, you can notice that Foxy from time and time again would get into a lot of drama with people who ran obvious bait and troll accounts. And that's mainly because Foxy really isn't that hard to troll. In fact, it's so easy, anyone can give it a shot. And you honestly would feel bad if it wasn't for the fact that she's a massive degenerate. But I figured that I should include this as well because despite being a good portion of her defenders being obvious trolls, you'd have to commend them due to how they perfectly portray who Foxy really is. Whether if it was intentional or not, you'd end up finding more information on Foxy than you originally would have. Mainly because as long as she still has defenders, she wouldn't need to really worry about lying about her side of the story in that regard. For this chapter, I'm going to be mentioning Screwball again, since I feel as if this should be pointed out. One thing that Screwball tends to say regarding of the Discord confrontation of Foxy was that the messages were fake to make her look bad. I originally found this when he responded to one of my friend's comments a few days ago saying that it was fake, alongside a video where he responds to a Google Doc talking about him. Now, since Foxy's channel at the time got terminated again, her My Side of the Story video along other pieces of important evidence have been completely wiped. However, thanks to Mr. Blocky, we still have an entire re-upload of Foxy's defense video. Now, when you look into the comments of that video, you can see that Screwball comments on that video, acknowledging what Foxy had done, and said himself that he wouldn't be fully supporting her anymore, but doesn't support Fryboy in this whole situation. Keep in mind, this comment was 4 months ago, and the comment where he said that the information was fake was at least a week ago. This, if anything, just showed me that he had full awareness of what happened, but still continues to support Foxy. The thing is that if Foxy was truly innocent, a prominent defender such as Screwball wouldn't need to lie about what had actually happened in that group chat, despite knowing damn well what Foxy intended. And not to mention, you'd also have Foxy agreeing what Screwball had said in these videos, despite them being massive contradictions to what she originally said. Curiously enough, I asked Screwball in a community post why exactly he defended Foxy, which he then lies again and then says that during this time, Foxy was stressed out when she was confronted. I asked him who exactly relayed this information, and he said someone by the name of Surarsky did. So, when I asked him if he could follow up and show me evidence of this ever happening, he stopped replying to further comments. I asked him multiple times on my community tab if he could follow up with it, which he ignored. After a long time, I finally got a response. He admitted that he made these claims up entirely and that I was some way attacking him. And from this moment, I started to realize that Screwball was, if not, an obvious troll. His response to me had really sold the idea. His response to the whole situation had really sold the idea, because you can see how he confirms himself to be one in this comment. There were a few more ideas as well that helped lead to that conclusion, especially the Discord call he was confronted in. Hilariously enough, despite being an obvious troll, they've managed to demonstrate just how Foxy's desperation is so high, she's willing to do anything, even if it means lying about what actually happened, and all of it just to get defenders. From most of the defenders you really get of Foxy are either manipulated kids, man-children, or, unsurprisingly enough, trolls. Alright, as I said in the previous chapter, I really want to discuss the whole Leah and Foxy situation in this chapter, because this situation is quite so bizarre to piece together without getting forms of biases from both sides in the situation. Thankfully, Arcseacord and its members had helped a lot with gathering research for this specific chapter, plus a Google Doc explaining in detail about it all together. From what we know of Leah right now is very little. Her earlier background isn't known too well, but she became mainstream in the Go Animate community because Foxy hates her. Whoever fired first at each other is really unknown, but it's completely irrelevant. But due to the fact that Foxy hated her, Foxy and another kid named Paula had started the Anti-Leah Alliance, or ALA for short. This sub-community's purpose was to specifically hate this 15-year-old because Foxy didn't like them. Now, you may ask, why exactly does a 24-year-old hate this 15-year-old kid so much? Because she apparently suicide baited, and also allegedly spread CP. Now, when you hear the last part, it sounds bad, but when you take into account that Leah literally showed an image of Philip from South Park, you're probably just left scratching your head just wondering, like, what the fuck is going on? And now for the suicide baiting part, who fucking cares? Foxy's trying everything she can just to get everyone to hate this kid, because Foxy's trying not to let people see the skeletons that she has in her closet. And even if she did, can you really blame her? Leah is a mentally fucked up 15-year-old who is a 24-year-old making gay harassment campaigns on her. And speaking of that, I feel like I should explain that further. While I was doing research for this video, I found a little Discord server from Oswaldo. This server was made around November 19th of last year, but it didn't start getting active until around July this year. This server also had Foxy, Screwball, and some other kids that Foxy had manipulated during this time. On this server, it would be filled to the brim with anti-Leah shit, some of which are quite more damning than the others, where someone had said that the next time she suicide baited, they would actually try to make her commit suicide. The people in the server are, if anything, victims of Foxy and Oswaldo, manipulating them to say this shit, as they condone wanting to do evil things to Leah, so the child fans will reflect the same sentiment. What's worse about this as well is that most of the people you see get banned from the server are because of suspicions of them joining purely to spy on the people on that server. Foxy and Oswaldo enable this type of behavior and seemingly support it as long as the people doing it are people they like. What's worse though is that most of the server is mainly children, excluding Oswaldo and Foxy. Oswaldo and Foxy don't go in there once to say what they're saying about Leah is bad, but if anything, laugh at what they're saying about her when they call her a slut, or the fact that one of the members were faking suicidal thoughts just to be friends with her again so they could trick her. Foxy and Oswaldo are completely aware of what was being said in this Discord server, and if anything, we're encouraging the messages being said in the hopes that Leah does take her life, and they don't even criticize them of the messages they were saying on that server, but were more concerned of the event of a spy being in their server. If anything, they were more just concerned about the server's privacy and hoping it stays private so they can say all this terrible shit about Leah. These people are sick individuals. When this situation had eventually reached the spotlight, this had already amplified the hate against her. So, in response, she would try to do anything that she could to convince people that she simply didn't know what she admitted to would be saving CP. During this as well, Foxy would try to take full advantage of her learning disability and to do damage control in the whole situation. No surprise there. Now, to show you how she plays off ignorance, one big example that you could reference is her My Side of the Story video. During that video, you can see Foxy intentionally skimming over the stuff that she was called out for, specifically the part where she admits that she would save CP, or the next part where she tries to justify it.
It was basically a mistake that I was talking about. Basically, I was saying, was it okay? I understand that.
As I've stated previously, this is merely so that she can try to bank on people feeling sympathetic toward her because she has a learning disability. But despite her full awareness of knowing what she admitted to, she deliberately ignores what is being said about her, especially the part where she admits that she would save a kid's nude to use it against them. She is intentionally ignoring what is being said about her despite her knowing what she admitted to, and later attempting to justify it in that group chat where she's confronted. Ironically enough, this isn't Foxy's first time trying to plead ignorance to shit like this. There is another example that isn't Foxy, but I figured it should be heard. A long while ago, one of Foxy's friends had made another video essentially explaining why they were defending her. In the video, they explained that Foxy had simply made a mistake and that it shouldn't be made into a big deal. They also said that the people criticizing her were going after her because they have their own hate bases, whatever the fuck that means. As you can imagine, their defenses mainly come from a biased standpoint, because think about it. If this was really a mistake on Foxy's end, why would Foxy's first instinct when she sees uncensored CP is to screenshot it, censor it, save it, and then keep it on her phone or hard drive to use it to expose a kid? How in what fucking world would this be considered a mistake? Foxy admitted that she would be holding on to that image for the intention to get back at a kid she didn't like. Plus, considering her past supporting predators alike, it's pretty fair to assume that it wouldn't be classified as some sort of mistake. This is already made worse considering the person here defending Foxy had commented on her My Side of the Story video, still defending her after being shown that the evidence is real. After that video dropped, I made a community post responding to it, basically pointing out that a 30-year-old is defending Foxy admitting she would save CP, while also pointing out that she let a predator comment on her videos. Eventually, I ended up getting into an argument with Foxy's friend where they tried to argue that Foxy didn't know they were a predator, but during this response, they were confusing what I was talking about with the whole Wilson Perez shit, which wasn't what I was talking about. The situation that I was addressing anyhow was the one where Foxy was allowing a literal predator to comment on her videos, despite her comments being heavily filtered, as she says. I responded to the comment by pointing out that she did know they were a predator. She validated its existence in her comment section, and she knew what she was being asked. In that same comment, he tried to state that they had no idea of Foxy's past, but literally later on, they would bring up Foxy defending Vinny, or even earlier, they would point out the whole Wilson Perez shit indirectly. At this point, this just gave me undeniable confirmation that this loyal friend of Foxy's was completely aware of what she did, and is completely unfazed by it. For what seemed to be a misunderstanding on their end, just turned into them defending Foxy, admitting she would save CP for malicious intent, even ignoring the fact that they sympathized with Foxy defending Wilson, even though she knew what was being talked about. Foxy's loyal friend doesn't care about who is negatively affected by what she did. Their full awareness of what she did doesn't seem to bother them whatsoever. So far enough that they're trying to deflect the original questions I even asked them, because they're more concerned about Foxy's mental health than the possibility of child exploitation. Why on fucking earth would her mental health matter more in the case of possible child exploitation? Overall, his main point is that Foxy didn't actually save it, and the misunderstanding was making her depressed or some shit. And yes, she didn't save the image, but that's not the main point. The main point, overall, is that she admitted she would save uncensored CP to expose kids she didn't like, to get back at them. And at the end of the day, does that really change much? And it doesn't really help that she asked Lulu for censored CP so that she could use it to get back at someone. And the fact that she admitted she hung out with people that would do the same thing she admitted to. You realize that Foxy doing all of this shit can lead somewhere. All of these patterns from Foxy really can lead up to worse. Stuff that she's been criticized for and defending and trying to manipulate people into thinking it's not. All of these problems are what Foxy's loyal friend seems to continually deflect, because every stupid little thing she has done is considered some kind of mistake. There's a reason why Foxy doesn't say the word screenshot in that situation. Foxy will twist her side of the story so she doesn't get too much backlash from this situation. And it only got worse for her when Mr. Blocky had dropped the whole group chat interaction showing her actual side of the story. even though it was mainly shitting on her the whole time. While I may not have direct confirmation from Foxy who she is friends with or she hangs out with, it could be mostly kids or it could be adults. But I have presented strong evidence against Foxy. We have evidence of Foxy admitting that she would save uncensored CP to expose kids she doesn't like, and that one comment saying that deleting it wouldn't be saving it. Evidence of Foxy trying to manipulate kids when it comes to CP, leading to potential child exploitation. Evidence of Foxy getting people to block her critics, while also allowing actual predators to comment under her videos, validating their existence to her young audience. Evidence of really relatively similar behavior of what Foxy admitted to reoccurring in this community. And to be honest, Foxy getting into another situation like this kinda was expected. I've watched the Foxy drama for at this point nearly a year. I've seen most of all of the controversies that she was entangled in. Why on earth would anyone have expected Foxy to change, especially after what happened last year? During 2022, a lot of people were on her ass after Foxy had defended Wilson Perez. When she eventually got called out for that shit, she realized it didn't make her look good, so she tried to make it sound like she didn't know she was defending him. Eventually, this led to a leaked group chat where Foxy had defended Wilson by saying that CP can be forgiven, and after that point, it just added more fuel to the fire. And it's made worse knowing that there were minors in that group chat where Foxy had explained to them that CP was forgivable. Then in 2023, Foxy had defended Vinny sharing the nudes of a child on his community tab for like 2 months, and then she realized nobody was on her side about that shit. So she cut him off for her own good, not because she cared about the child that was endangered. Eventually, it got to a point where Foxy would send false privacy complaints to YouTube to get videos criticizing her taken down. Foxy did not give a shit about who would be negatively affected of what these people did. Not to mention, Foxy's content specifically caters to children. So, since Foxy appeals to a younger side of the YouTube spectrum, also the fact that she's known to heavily censor and filter her comment section, it's gonna be easier for her to manipulate her audience into fighting for her. Even worse, since this whole situation broke out with Foxy, she realized that it was gonna have a bad implication on the children who look up to her. So she tried anything she could to avoid the backlash, even if it meant manipulating her young audience into believing the evidence against her was fake, or calling her critics a bunch of bullies when in reality they're right about her. So to end this off, I'm just gonna say this. The reality of the situation is that Foxy had never changed. She is, and always has been, the same person she was a few years ago. And as I've said before, we only have more knowledge about her controversies now. And if anything, it's bad enough to where we can't even say that she's actually changed. Foxy has been given the resources to try and improve herself, but she never cared about moving on. She only cared about her image. She has been given, if not countless passes by the community time and time again for what seems to be just ignorance. But in reality, there's a lot more about her that she tries to keep secret. Everything that you see Foxy do is considered some kind of mistake. But when you look at her track record, you can see that she's fucked up continuously and has not done anything to learn from these situations. She runs from her past because she wants people off her back about what she did. She is ignorant to her own issues, and when it comes to getting the slightest criticism, she is willing to accuse anyone of bullying. All the actions that she's tried to do were in the act of trying to stop the drama around her, which brings an interesting question. Is she doing this because she's actually against what she's talking about, or is she doing it to preserve what little reputation she has left? And considering that it's Foxy, I'm not really shy to say that it's for her so she can try to look good. And it's not to say I entirely disagree with people using the whole "it's in the past" argument. I get it. We all have done relatively dumb shit we all regret, and that's just because we're all human. We all fuck up at some point and find out we aren't exactly as smart as we were in that situation, and we learn from that situation, which in return helps us grow. Unfortunately though, this excuse has been abused to let people get away from a controversy they're stuck in and not actively learning from that situation. She says she wants to strive away from drama and be a drama-free channel, but if that really was the case, why would Foxy need to respond to every video that has the slightest mention of her? Why does she need to make over 40 community posts and have almost all of them be related to some gay drama that she's in? Even after 4 months of my recent video, she has not changed one bit. When Foxy tries to address her current situations, she will echo the words from others that don't even explain her side of the story correctly, regardless if it's contradictory or not, as long as she has defenders. And to make sure that people don't hear the other side of the story, she will do anything that she can to stop it, such as heavily filtering her comment sections and allowing actual predators to comment on her videos. That is truly how desperate Foxy is. After everything I have shown you so far in this video, I think we all can collectively reach one conclusion about Foxy. Foxy needs to have her channel wiped entirely from YouTube. She is a malicious fuck who will save CP to expose kids she does not like, hangs around predators herself, normalizing their behavior, and manipulating kids into thinking pedo behavior is okay. I'd honestly confidently say that she is a danger to kids and should stay far away from them. If one of Foxy's loyal friends is an actual 30-year-old person who was, if not a sick freak, who actively thinks that what Foxy did was forgivable, I am not shy to say that that 30-year-old person is a predator and a potential danger to kids. And that same title goes to Foxy. And you really can't blame me either, considering that what she's defended in the past.